Wil Cordero's career came crashing down when his wife's revelation about his abusive behavior shocked everyone. The dark crime he committed didn't just stain his reputation, it completely overshadowed his time on the field. The scandal was too big to brush aside, and his team had no choice but to release him. His promising career was ultimately destroyed by his own actions. It all started in 1997 when he pleaded guilty to assault and battery against his former wife, Anna. This revelation shocked the baseball world and put his off-the-field behavior under intense scrutiny. Later that same year, things only got worse for him when a restraining order was issued against him in Puerto Rico for allegedly threatening his wife. These incidents showed a man struggling as his personal life fell apart for everyone to see. All of these incidents had a devastating impact on Cordero's career. The Boston Red Sox, unwilling to tolerate such behavior, made a bold and unprecedented decision in 1997. They released him following his domestic violence incident. At the time, Major League Baseball had no official policy in place for handling domestic violence cases, so it was extremely rare for a team to take such a strong stand. In fact, it is now documented that before MLB introduced its official domestic policy in 2015, the Boston Red Sox were the first team to take direct action against a player for domestic violence. That player was Wil Cordero. The trouble didn't stop there. In 1999, Cordero found himself in legal trouble once again, this time in New York, where he was arrested and charged with disturbing the peace. The incident reportedly involved an altercation with his wife's former husband, further adding to his already tarnished reputation. Then, in 2002, he was arrested yet again, this time in Orlando, Florida, on charges of battery in a domestic violence case. However, the case was eventually dropped when the alleged victim refused to participate in the prosecution. Even though he avoided legal consequences in that instance, the damage to his reputation was undeniable. His time on the field was also filled with struggles, as injuries and his own behavior constantly held him back from reaching his full potential. In 1992, he had a golden opportunity to make the Montreal Expos opening day roster, an impressive feat considering he had signed with the team less than 4 years earlier at just 16 years old. It was the kind of chance every young player dreams of, an opportunity to prove himself at the highest level of baseball. But as spring training unfolded, things didn't go the way he had hoped. Despite his talent, he struggled at the plate, striking out a staggering 17 times in just 38 at-bats. His lack of consistency made it clear to the Expos management that he wasn't quite ready for the big leagues yet. Instead of breaking camp with the team, he was sent down to AAA Indianapolis to continue refining his skills. Although the demotion was disappointing, Cordero didn't have to wait too long to get another shot. After the All-Star break, he was called up to the majors, finally getting his chance to play for the Expos. When he finally stepped onto the field, he was determined to make the most of his opportunity. Every at-bat, every inning, and every game felt like a chance to prove that he belonged in the majors. And he didn't disappoint. By the time the season came to an end, he had put up an impressive .314 batting average in 45 games, showing that he had the talent to compete at the highest level. His ability to make solid contact and deliver clutch hits didn't go unnoticed. He approached each plate appearance with confidence, displaying the kind of poise rarely seen in young players. Whether it was driving the ball into the gaps or simply putting the ball in play when his team needed it most, he demonstrated the skills of a reliable hitter. His performance at the plate suggested that he could be a long-term asset for his team. However, despite his success with the bat, his rookie season was anything but smooth. Injuries and bad luck seemed to follow him wherever he went, making it nearly impossible for him to gain any real momentum. Just when it looked like he was settling in and finding his rhythm, something would happen to knock him off course. Throughout the season, Cordero battled multiple health issues that kept him off the field for significant stretches. He suffered a sprained ankle, which made it difficult to move around the bases and affected his defensive play. Just as he was beginning to recover and get back into the rhythm of playing, another setback struck. This time, it was a strained middle finger on his throwing hand, an injury that might not sound serious at first, but had a major impact on his game. Every time he tried to grip the bat, he felt discomfort, making it difficult to swing with confidence. The injury also affected his ability to make strong, accurate throws, further complicating his return to full strength. For a player still trying to establish himself in the big leagues, every missed game felt like a step backward. He wanted nothing more than to be on the field, proving his worth to his team, but his body wasn't cooperating. Just when he thought he was moving past one issue, another seemed to take its place. But perhaps the most unexpected setback of all came in the form of something completely out of his control, a severe case of chickenpox. It was the kind of illness that most people deal with as children, but for a professional athlete in the middle of a season, it was a rare and frustrating challenge. The illness left him physically drained, robbing him of the strength and energy he needed to compete at the highest level. He was sidelined yet again, forced to watch from the sidelines as his teammates continued without him. The combination of injuries and illness made it feel like he just couldn't catch a break. Each time he was close to getting back on track, something else seemed to slow him down. He was known as a line drive hitter, someone who could make solid contact and find gaps in the defense. When he finally got the opportunity to play his first full season in the majors in 1993, it was a defining moment in his career. After years of working his way through the minor leagues and dealing with injuries, he was eager to prove that he belonged at the highest level. Stepping onto the field as an everyday player was both exciting and challenging, but he embraced the opportunity and gave it everything he had. At the plate, he put up respectable numbers. He finished the year with a .248 batting average, 10 home runs, and 58 RBIs. While those numbers weren't jaw-dropping, they were solid for a young player still finding his footing in the league. More importantly, they showed that he had the potential to be a consistent offensive contributor. He displayed flashes of power and the ability to drive in runs, which gave his team hope that he could develop into a reliable middle-of-the-order hitter. But while his offense showed promise, his performance on defense was a different story. Playing shortstop, a position that demanded quick reflexes, strong footwork, and a reliable glove, he struggled to keep up with the defensive expectations of the major leagues. His range was below average, making it difficult for him to get to balls that more skilled shortstops would have handled with ease. He also committed a high number of errors, which became a growing concern for his coaches and teammates. Every misstep in the field added pressure to his game. He knew that if he wanted to secure a long-term role in the big leagues, he had to improve defensively. But with every routine ground ball that got past him and every throw that missed its target, doubts began to creep in. Could he handle the demands of playing shortstop at the major league level, or would his defensive struggles ultimately hold him back? Despite his shortcomings in the field, his first full season proved that he had value as a hitter. He had taken an important step in his career, showing that he could handle the daily grind of a long season and contribute with his bat. The challenge now was finding a way to either improve his defense or transition to a position that better suited his skill set. Playing shortstop, Cordero struggled in the field. His range was below average, meaning he had trouble covering ground and getting to balls that other shortstops could reach. On top of that, his high error rate made him a liability at a position where reliability is crucial. The Expos had hoped he would develop into a solid defender, but it quickly became clear that his glove wasn't going to be his strong suit. Despite his defensive struggles, the team stuck with him, recognizing that his bat had value. The following season, in 1994, Cordero took a big step forward, proving that he was more than just a decent hitter. He had the best offensive year of his career, finishing with a career-high .294 batting average. He also displayed increased power, belting 15 home runs and driving in 63 runs. On top of that, he showcased his ability to hit for extra bases, racking up 35 doubles and scoring 65 runs. His strong performance earned him a spot on the National League All-Star team, a huge milestone for any player and a sign that he was establishing himself as a key piece of the Expos lineup. Unfortunately, the season was cut short due to the infamous players' strike, bringing an abrupt end to what could have been an even more impressive campaign. Despite the disappointment of the strike-shortened season, Cordero continued to hit well in 1995. He followed up his breakout year with another solid performance, batting .286. While he didn't quite match the numbers he put up the previous season, he remained an important part of the Expos offense. Heading into the 1996 season, he found himself in a new chapter of his career. The Montreal Expos, the team that had signed him as a teenager and developed him into a major leaguer, decided to move on. They traded him to the Boston Red Sox in exchange for pitchers Rahel Cormier and Shane Bennett, along with first baseman Ryan Maguire. For Cordero, this was both an opportunity and a challenge. He was joining a historic franchise with a passionate fan base, but he would also need to prove himself in a new environment. However, his first season in Boston didn't go as smoothly as he had hoped. Nagging injuries kept him from staying on the field consistently, preventing him from getting into a rhythm at the plate. On top of that, the Red Sox already had an established shortstop in John Valentine, which meant Cordero had to adjust to a new role. Instead of playing his usual position, he was moved around the field, spending time at second base and as a designated hitter. These changes, combined with his injuries, limited him to just 59 games that season. It was a frustrating year, but he remained determined to bounce back. In 1997, Cordero got a fresh start in a different position. With shortstop no longer an option, the Red Sox moved him to left field, and surprisingly, he adapted well. In fact, he became an above-average defender at that position, a major improvement from his struggles in the infield. After years of being criticized for his defensive shortcomings, he finally found a role where he could make a positive impact with his glove. His transition to the outfield wasn't just about filling a spot. It was about proving that he could be a well-rounded player, capable of contributing on both sides of the game. But it wasn't just his defense that stood out. His bat finally came alive in a big way. For the first time in his career, everything seemed to click at the plate. He displayed a new level of consistency, delivering key hits and driving in runs when his team needed them most. The power that scouts had long believed he possessed started to show up more frequently, and his confidence at the plate was evident. That year, he posted the best numbers of his career, setting personal bests in nearly every major offensive category. It was the kind of breakout season that players dream of, one where all the hard work, struggles, and adjustments finally paid off. He played in a career-high 140 games, proving that he could stay healthy and contribute regularly over a full season. Durability had often been a concern for him in the past, but now he was showing that he could handle the grind of a long season without missing significant time. His offensive production wasn't just as impressive as his ability to stay on the field. He launched 18 home runs, drove in 72 runs, crossed the plate 82 times, and collected 160 hits. These weren't just respectable numbers. They were the kind of stats that made people take notice. For the first time, it looked like he was truly reaching his full potential. After years of ups and downs, flashes of talent, and frustrating inconsistencies, he finally put together a season that showcased just how good he could be. The question now was whether he could keep it going. But just when it looked like things were falling into place for him, everything came crashing down. At the end of the 1997 season, the Red Sox made a shocking decision. They released Cordero. This wasn't because of his on-field performance, but rather due to a serious issue off the field. A domestic violence incident involving his former wife had come to light, and the news spread quickly, leaving many in the baseball world stunned and disappointed. The Boston Red Sox, unwilling to associate themselves with the controversy, made the decision to cut ties with him. They released him at the end of the 1997 season, making it clear that they wanted nothing to do with a player facing such serious allegations. At the time, this move was almost unheard of. Major League Baseball had no official policy regarding domestic violence, meaning teams were not obligated to take disciplinary action for off-the-field behavior. Yet, the Red Sox took a firm and decisive stance, becoming one of the first organizations to hold a player accountable for personal conduct outside the game. Their decision set a precedent, sending a message that actions away from the field could have real consequences for a player's career. With his reputation badly damaged, Cordero's future in professional baseball was suddenly filled with uncertainty. Once a promising talent, he now found himself in a difficult position. Teams were hesitant to take a chance on him, knowing the backlash that might come with signing a player linked to domestic violence. His career, which had already been plagued by injuries and inconsistency, was now at risk of ending far sooner than expected. Despite the controversy surrounding him, the Chicago White Sox saw an opportunity. Willing to look past his personal troubles, they decided to offer him another chance. Signing with Chicago gave Cordero an opportunity to continue playing, but it also came with immense pressure. He had to prove that he still belonged in Major League Baseball, while also dealing with the cloud of his past actions hanging over him. For Cordero, this was more than just another team change. It was a fight to keep his career alive. The road ahead would not be easy, but for now, he had one more shot to prove himself on the field. As he entered the later stages of his career, he found himself bouncing from team to team, trying to hold on to his place in Major League Baseball. From 1998 to 2004, Wil Cordero found himself constantly on the move, playing for 5 different teams. Among them were 2 separate stints with the Cleveland Indians and a full season back with the Montreal Expos, the team that had originally given him his big break. While he still had moments where he could contribute, consistency became harder to maintain. Injuries and the natural wear and tear of a long baseball career were starting to take their toll. Finding a stable role on a team became more difficult with each passing season. By 2004, his body was beginning to break down. Years of playing at the highest level had caught up with him, and the pain was becoming impossible to ignore. That year, he was forced to undergo arthroscopic knee surgery. The procedure sidelined him for the entire season, a major setback for any player, but especially for someone in his mid-30s. For many veterans, missing an entire year of baseball signals the beginning of the end. Returning to the game after such a long layoff is never easy, and the question loomed, would Cordero ever make it back? But he wasn't ready to walk away just yet. Determined to keep his career alive, he pushed forward and prepared for one last attempt at a comeback. In 2005, he signed with the Washington Nationals, the renamed version of the Montreal Expos franchise. Reuniting with the organization that had first brought him into the majors felt like a fresh start. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. His time away from the game, combined with lingering knee issues, made it difficult to return to form. What was supposed to be a new chapter in his career quickly turned into an uphill battle. His comeback attempt with the Nationals would prove to be short-lived. Knee problems continued to slow him down, and his performance at the plate suffered greatly. In 29 games that season, he managed just a .118 batting average with only 2 RBIs, struggling to make any real impact. With his production at an all-time low and his struggles at the plate showing no signs of improvement, the Washington Nationals were left with a difficult decision. The team had given him a chance to contribute, but his numbers had fallen off dramatically. Battling persistent knee problems and declining performance, he was no longer the reliable hitter he once had been. The front office ultimately decided that it was time to move on. On July 25, 2005, the Nationals placed Cordero on waivers with the intention of granting him his unconditional release. For the 33-year-old veteran, it was a crushing reality check. Just a few years earlier, he had been an all-star, a player capable of making an impact in the lineup. Now, he was struggling just to stay in the league, his future in professional baseball hanging by a thread. The release was more than just a roster move. It was a signal that his career was in serious jeopardy. Cordero had spent over a decade in the majors, playing for multiple teams and experiencing both the highs of success and the lows of setbacks. But this moment felt different. He was no longer a young player with potential, and the opportunities to prove himself were becoming scarce. With his time in Washington officially over, he faced an uncertain road ahead, unsure if another team would be willing to take a chance on him. Despite his struggles, the New York Mets saw potential in him and decided to take a chance. Just 2 days after his release from the Nationals, the Mets signed him to a minor league contract and assigned him to their AAA affiliate, the Norfolk Tides. It was a last-ditch effort to revive his career, but unfortunately, things only went from bad to worse. His time with the Norfolk Tides was brief, and his struggles at the plate continued. In the short span that he played for the Mets AAA affiliate, he managed just a .129 batting average, a far cry from the numbers he had once put up in the majors. The hopes of a resurgence faded quickly, as he showed no signs of returning to his former self. His bat, once a reliable weapon, had gone silent, and his physical condition no longer allowed him to be the player he once was. On August 15th, less than 3 weeks after signing with the Mets, the organization made a difficult decision. They released him. It was another tough blow in what had already been a frustrating journey, and this time it seemed like the end was near. Once a promising young star with an all-star appearance to his name, Cordero now found himself without a team and without a clear path forward. His future in professional baseball was in serious doubt, and for the first time in his career, he was forced to face the reality that his playing days might be over. Despite this setback, Cordero wasn't ready to walk away from the game just yet. After sitting out the entire 2006 season, he decided to give it one more shot. In March 2007, the Mets extended him another opportunity, signing him to a minor league contract in the hopes that he could recapture some of his old form. It was a long shot, but it was a chance. One last opportunity to prove that he still had something left in the tank. However, this time, he didn't even make it past spring training. His performance in camp simply wasn't enough to convince the Mets to keep him around, and before the season even began, he was released. Unlike previous setbacks, there were no more teams waiting to offer him another chance. There were no more call-ups, no more minor league assignments, just a quiet realization that his time as a professional baseball player had come to an end. It was an unceremonious exit from the sport that he devoted his life to, but like all players, the day had finally come when he had to retire for good. Although his playing days were over, Cordero didn't walk away from the sport entirely. After stepping away from professional baseball, he found a new way to stay connected to the game he had dedicated his life to. Rather than leaving baseball behind completely, he transitioned into a mentoring role, working as a coach during the summers at Custer's Sports Academy in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. While the bright lights of Major League Baseball were now in his past, he embraced the opportunity to share his knowledge and experience with young players who were eager to learn. For Cordero, coaching was more than just teaching the mechanics of hitting or fielding. It was about passing on the lessons he had learned throughout his career. He understood the challenges of making it in professional baseball, from dealing with the pressure of high expectations to overcoming injuries and setbacks. By working with aspiring athletes, he could help them develop not only their skills on the field, but also the mental toughness needed to succeed in such a competitive sport. His time at Custer's gave him a chance to give back to the game that had given him so much. Whether he was guiding young players through drills, offering advice on improving their swings, or simply sharing stories from his playing days, he found fulfillment in helping the next generation grow their passion for baseball. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.